And we'll get started. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. I'm kind of excited for this Divinity series that I've decided to begin. Just kind of a little bit of background. I felt like I wanted to do this class for a long time. And so tonight is kind of like a fulfillment of a dream that I've had, just to get started. And I've talked to Ashley a little bit about this. I've talked to Sally and Cindy. I've even talked to you about some of the things we're going to talk about. So it's fun to have you guys on live, and I'm so excited to share with you some of the things that I've been learning and a little bit of my story to just kind of open us up to what's inside of us, that part of us that makes us divine, that's already part of us that we don't have to work at. It's just there, and it's part of who we are. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It looks like Amber Giles connected. I'm so glad you're here, Amber. She's one of my friends that was out of the state that I really wanted to include in this. So I'm glad that you're here tonight. And Emily, so glad that you're on as well. Okay, let me share my screen and we will get going. Everything look good? Thumbs up, Ashley. Okay. All right. Well, I wanted to welcome everyone. There is a chat feature. If you guys have any comments that you would want, I'm going to open that so I can watch that as we go tonight. But I appreciate all of you being on. So welcome everyone to our first Divinity class. When I decided to teach this series of classes, I thought I would have in-person events where I could see each of your lovely faces and feel your hearts. But I had a few dear friends who live in other parts of the country that I really wanted to include. So I decided to change things up just a little bit. So our Divinity series is going to consist of 3 core classes: Awaken to your divinity, Accept from your divinity, and Arise in your divinity. For each of these 3 classes, we will have an online Zoom class, just like we're doing now, on the last Tuesday of the first 3 months of 2023, beginning today. These classes will be recorded and sent to those who are unable to attend live. And then for those who live locally, close by, and because there's just something really powerful about meeting face-to-face, heart-to-heart, in person, we will also have a workshop on the Saturday following the first 2 classes, and then a special date night following the 3rd class. For the workshops, we will likely be meeting at a local church building or in my home, depending on how many people come. And we're going to have a light lunch. We're going to do a special group meditation and then some group coaching. So we'll talk a little bit more about our first workshop at the end of today's class. But if you've never experienced group coaching, I highly recommend attending one of these workshops. After our last class, we are going to meet for a dinner date night, and this will be a great opportunity to bring your spouse or a friend for a night of dinner and divine conversation. We're just going to have a lot of fun. But for tonight, let's dive into our first Divinity class, Awaken to your divinity. You guys excited? Are starting to feel like excitement inside? That's your divinity saying, you got to listen up tonight. So why do we start here? Why are we talking about divinity tonight? Why do we need to awaken what's inside of us? What is this divinity that's within us? And why do we need to be awakened to it? I truly believe that at our core, we are divine. You may have heard the famous quote by a French philosopher: "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." Raise your hand if you've heard that before, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. I just love this quote. There's something about it that really resonates with my soul. So I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and as part of my faith tradition, I was taught from a very early age that I am a child of heavenly parents, that I lived with them as their spirit daughter before receiving my physical body. In a sacred book of scripture, I learned that I was created spiritually even before coming to earth. In Moses chapter 3, verse 5, we read, "For I, the Lord God, created all things of which I have spoken spiritually before they were naturally upon the face of the earth. And I, the Lord God, had created all the children of men, and not yet a man to till the ground. For in heaven created I them. And there was not yet flesh upon the earth, neither in the water, neither in the air." I love this scripture. My divine self, my spirit was created by God and was with him before I was born to a physical body with a human mind. Okay, we all have these physical bodies and these human minds, but before we had that, we were with God. Now we have a variety of faith traditions represented here today, for which I am so grateful, as I truly believe that we all have truth to contribute. And some of the most spiritual friends I have met have been of other faith traditions. So regardless of your religious affiliation or your individual faith tradition, there's something about divinity that universally rings true. So tonight I invite you to open your heart and mind as we discover this power that's within each of us together. So to begin tonight, I wanted to share a little bit of my story. Have you ever looked at a newborn baby and wondered, what are they thinking? Are they consciously aware of who they are or why they are here? After 4 hard years of trying to have a baby, I was born to my parents, the oldest of what would be 7 children. Hearing my mom talk about how long she waited to be a mother, I created a story that I was wanted and I was loved from the very, very beginning. My dad was a chemistry teacher, and my mom, well, she was a forest ranger and the neighborhood piano teacher and the Tupperware Avon lady extraordinaire. Anything to make a little extra money to supplement my dad's meager teacher salary. We didn't have a lot, but I never felt lack. I had everything I needed until I turned 4 and decided that I really, really needed to take dance lessons. Okay, these next pictures are epic, you guys. Then I became a dancer. Tap, ballet, jazz, it was all fun to me. My whole world changed, though, when I discovered clogging. When I finally earned enough money babysitting to buy my own white clogging shoes, I felt like my life was complete. I remember my mom telling my grandma once that she thought I was probably a dancer before I was born, and I believed her. I believed being a dancer was part of my divinity. I actually still believe that today. Like, there's something inside of me. I can follow a beat. I just want to move my body, and I think I moved my spirit before I came. I felt like I was always a dancer. I loved clogging. It was a huge part of my identity until my 9th grade year. I was in the top level class of my neighborhood dance studio, and many of my friends were transferring to the Corner Canyon Kickers. This was an elite clogging group that won all the awards on a state and national level. Unfortunately, my family did not have enough money for this elite dance school, and for the first time in my life, I experienced jealousy. I remember my last competition. I was so embarrassed to dance with my Corner Canyon friends watching. I was ashamed I didn't have enough money to change dance schools. I was ashamed my dad was a teacher. I was mortified to wear our hand-sewn hot pink leopard print costumes, which you see here. But I actually loved those costumes until I compared them to the costumes my Corner Canyon friends were wearing, and that our dance was way too easy compared to theirs. At the age of 14, I sprained my ankle on stage on purpose and vowed to never dance again. That's how my human brain was working. Instead, I claimed the identity as the smartest girl in my school, who was always competing with the smartest boy and beating him, whoever he was, most of the time. I felt immense shame every time I didn't get the highest score in the class. I remember sobbing after missing 2 problems on a vocabulary test because the whole class was shocked that Krista Mason didn't get 100%. There's people that actually said that out loud. And so I was just like mortified. I believed I had to be the best or I would let everyone down. I tried marching band, not my favorite. It wasn't that cool anyway. Then I served on the National Honor Society and as the president of the concert choir and madrigals for 2 years, taking as many AP classes as I could. I graduated with a 4.0 GPA and went to Snow College on scholarship, determined to pay my own way through college. I joined an institute show choir, satisfying my love for dancing and singing, and graduated summa cum laude, dating the valedictorian. So I like to think that I let him beat me because I liked him so much. It was kind of like our thing, right? But we were, of course, going to get married and go to pharmacy school together, and I planned to outperform him there. I was pretty sure I was going to. But then we broke up. We still studied together in pharmacy school, and I still competed to be the best, but I married a good friend from high school instead. I graduated second in my class from pharmacy school, which I still blame on my husband to this day. He was the only person in the whole world that could distract me from my studies enough. And it was so funny. I was doing this big seminar on once daily dosing of aminoglycosides and the treatment of bacterial endocarditis. And he was helping me create my PowerPoint, and that was our thing. He was going to distract me by putting all these he put all these things into my PowerPoint, and it was horrible. I was so upset with him. I'm like, anyway, it was so cute. But we were happy and we had so much fun together. And he was kind of my other half that helped me kind of calm down a little from trying to be the perfectionist that I was. We worked together to put each other through school, and I learned that I was pregnant with our first child just a couple months before I graduated, and we were really excited. Over the next 15 years, one by one, our children were born, and my identity as a working mother got a little overwhelming. After my fourth and supposed final child, I had an unexpected pregnancy, followed by a miscarriage at 8 weeks, which left me devastated. I had been taking naproxen for some hip pain before I knew I was pregnant. So when I lost the baby to a chorionic hemorrhage, I was sure that I had been the cause, and I was undone. Depression soon overtook me, and I knew I had to have another baby to heal. After the hardest pregnancy of my life, little Ryan was born. I had been diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, an autoimmune disease, which made it really difficult for me to lose weight after my pregnancies. My husband was serving as a leader in our church and was gone a lot of the time. I had really good friends that included me even when my husband had meetings, but I still often felt alone. You can tell by my body language in both of these pictures that I was hiding behind the many labels I had assigned myself through the years. Labels I let define me. Labels that stood as evidence that either I was great and better than other people, or that I was not as great and not as good as other people, depending on my moment. And then something happened. Something switched inside of me. To add to all my stories of drama, I received a cancer diagnosis. I had thyroid cancer. I knew that thyroid cancer likely wouldn't end my life. We caught it super early because of my family history of thyroid cancer and my Hashimoto's. But watching my husband experience a wife with cancer was really surreal for me. My husband, Aaron, has a friend named Brent. Brent's wife had been brought to death's door during a bone marrow transplant for leukemia. Both liked running, and when I was diagnosed with cancer, Aaron began running more. One particular morning, these friends went on a run. Aaron broke down for the first time since my diagnosis. He judged himself for his breakdown, knowing that what I would go through was nothing like his friend's wife's journey. But Brent said something that allowed my husband to grieve. He said, "Cancer is cancer." And then he left him alone for a moment with his tears. You see, Aaron's mom had passed away from breast cancer when he was 14. His dad was suffering his own grief, and his older brother ran away from his, never home to help. So Aaron became Superman. He took care of his family. He cooked for them. He cleaned for them. He helped his 5-year-old sister with her hair and her homework. He was sad his mom was gone, but he didn't have time to grieve. Now, 22 years later, he was grieving. And I watched him in awe of the man I had married, who was still showing up as Superman, but experiencing kryptonite for the first time. Cancer flipped something inside of me. I wanted to get healthy, not just for myself, but for my husband, for my children. I knew that deep inside, I was more than what I had become physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. 3 weeks after my total thyroidectomy, I found an Optavia coach and started an incredible journey. I lost 40 pounds in 4 months, and I found that I loved creating new healthy habits. It became kind of my passion. 3 months into my journey, I became an Optavia coach, and I began to share what I was learning about my healthy body and mind with my husband, and he was ready to be healthy with me. After an incredible dream about my dad, I began helping others, beginning with my own parents. I watched them not only transform physically, but I watched them begin to transform their ways of thinking. We were all learning together. We were learning the mental tools to begin to see our human minds and the stories that we all create. I started to read books like The Habits of Health and The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, where I learned about the line, about being below the line and above the line. I began to see my life experiences from the drama triangle below the line, not in judgment, but in wonder. I learned how my human brain was designed for security, approval, and control. And I recognized my responses at the dance competition, my schooling events, and home life as my brain doing its job. I also learned about the empowerment dynamic above the line and remembered experiences I had as a creator, as a coach, or a challenger. I began to see this concept through the lens of my faith tradition, with the natural man in a state of pride below the line, and with the spiritual man in a place of charity above the line. I started to watch and notice all the labels that I had assumed, both positive and negative, and I found it so interesting. I began to listen to podcasts like Jody Moore's Better Than Happy and joined her Be Bold program to further understand my human brain. I learned her CTFAR model, you can see on the left here, and I watched my own brain notice circumstances, create thoughts that elicited feelings in my body that led me to actions that created my results. And guess what? My results always proved my thoughts, because most of the time, those thoughts were coming from below the line, and I was right? Then I discovered Brooke Snow, who taught me about the law of creation: see, say, feel, do, become. And I saw a direct correlation to the model, just in different words. If you notice, we see our circumstances. What we say in our mind are our thoughts. We feel our feelings, we do our actions, and we become, right? That's our result. But the role of creator, remember, this is the law of creation. The role of creator was above the line, and the role of victim was below the line. And a light bulb went on inside of my mind, and I realized that I could either be the victim to my own human brain model, or I could choose to be the creator of my life. And then my eyes were opened even further. I attended an Optavia community event where a sister of one of our coaches was offering a free coaching class. She and some of her friends had taken what they had learned from Jody Moore and Brooke Snow. That's why I resonated with them, because they had taken the same classes that I had taken. And so I went to their class, and they had taken what they had learned from Jody Moore and Brooke Snow, and they created another way to see your brain. Their coaching practice is named Purpose in This Place. And I knew that there was purpose for me being in that place. I watched as this coach began to walk people through their model, or their law of creation, from the aspect of their divinity. I was intrigued about the concept of divinity. I had learned about the divine self from Brooke Snow, the me without the labels, the me that is love, the me that is whole and godly. I realized that I wanted to dive more into my own divinity and truly have eyes to see and ears to hear her. I wanted to know her. Now, I know that was kind of a long introduction to why we are here tonight, but I feel that our individual life experiences perfectly position us to connect with each other. Your experiences were likely different than mine, but your human brain seeking security, approval, and control was likely at work just like mine. Maybe you were trying to be the best. Maybe you felt like you didn't have as much as other people. Maybe you were trying to survive. I know some of your stories. Some of you that are on tonight have had trauma in your lives. And our brains that seek security and approval and control respond in a certain way to that trauma. You likely have your own labels, good or bad. They may be covering up your divinity and hindering your progress along your journey. So let's talk a little bit tonight about divinity. What is divinity? I'm sure all of you probably have your own definitions, and I invite you to include your own and to consider this one. So I like to define divinity. That's fun. I like to define divinity as the truest part of who you are from within, who you are at your core. This is a space that exists within you and is a space of your highest potential. Nothing you think, feel, or do changes this space, but from this space can come all things that change you. The ultimate goal of this life is to learn to let this inner core shine through in everything we see, say, feel, do, and become. Notice that I said that the goal is to learn to let this happen, not to always succeed, right? I would always think, oh, I have to come from my divinity always. And then, of course, I'd have the shame because I wouldn't come from my divinity, right? That's not what this is about. This is about learning to notice your divinity and then choosing to show up that way when you can, right? I truly believe that this is the time we have been given to prepare to meet God. And God is God because his divinity always shines through. He knows at his core who he is, and he creates worlds without number through his divinity. For all of my Christian friends, I believe that Jesus Christ, following his condescension into his own human existence, learned this very quickly. He learned to see, say, feel, do, and become through his divinity, line upon line. And he invites us to do the same because he is our guide through this process. So imagine with me for just a moment, what would it be like to always show up from this space of your highest potential? Okay, we probably will never show up this way in this life, but just imagine for a minute, maybe you're seeing yourself in the next life, right? And you've incorporated that divinity. What aspects, what attributes could describe this place of divinity that's within you? Once we can recognize these attributes of our divinity, we can begin to learn to practice these attributes, right? To learn them. That's why we're here. So these attributes we will discuss tonight are taken from a Purpose in This Place course that I took at the beginning of this month, and they're so eye-opening to me. When I am in my divine center, I am connected. I'm centered and connected. I am connected with myself, with life, with my spirit, with other people, and with nature. Have you ever had an experience where you felt connected to the earth? When I was little, I used to hug the grass and tell the earth I loved her. I just loved the earth. My mom taught me. My mom, remember, she was a forest ranger. She loved camping. She still does. She just loved being in the mountains. And she taught me from a very early age to love the earth. After my miscarriage, I had an experience where all I wanted to do was return to my Mother Earth and hug her again. And while my kids were at school and I was mourning, I remember I went outside one day and I mourned with the earth. She knew my pain of loss and we were connected somehow. Like I knew that she knew the pain that I was experiencing. And I knew that she knew my baby that I had lost. And it was a super sacred experience to just mourn with the earth. Next, from my divinity, I am aware. Within me lies a place where I am beyond evil, beyond attachments, beyond insecurities, beyond misconceptions, and beyond misunderstandings. Oh, how wonderful it would be to show up in our relationships from a place of awareness. You may notice this space more after this class tonight. I am aligned. I am centered and aligned with my inner voice, my connection with deity, and my core belief system. This alignment creates a place that is deeply committed to some kind of noble, uplifting, heroic purpose. My health journey has been so important as I have consciously chosen to align my physical body with my chosen divine mission to awaken to my own divinity and share my light with others. Next, I am connected with myself, with my life, with my spirit, with other people. One question I often ask myself right before I reach for that delicious cookie during my emotional eating experiences is, am I connected to my emotion of boredom or stress right now? Am I connected to the physical sensations in my body that is experiencing this emotion? Or am I trying to disconnect from my body right now? I have experiences with both. Sometimes I connect, sometimes I disconnect. But when I'm in my divinity, I am always connecting. Next, I am truth. I am committed to opening myself up to truth in whatever form it comes. I am curious and open to new learnings. I have mentioned faith traditions often tonight. One thing that I am learning is that most faith traditions are founded on truth. But I'm also beginning to see that what is true is not meant to be a roadblock against falsehood, but rather a guide to more truth. If we are not progressing in our understanding of truth towards God's perspective of his truth, we are limited in our capacity to receive more. So as soon as we learn a truth and decide that everything else is false and that's all we will believe, we close ourselves off to the opportunity that God may have something more, some more truth to teach us. I just love that thought that there's more truth. Let's use truth as a trail marker, not as a roadblock. Next, I am boundless opportunity. I recognize that there is boundless love, wisdom, joy, and strength available for me as I, attuned, surrender. Again, our natural state often limits us in our desire to seek security, approval, or control. But if we can surrender those natural desires and open our eyes beyond, we will welcome all experiences for the opportunities they are to help us become. I am remembered and developed. I remember what is already there inside me, that highest potential, and then I choose to continue to develop that. I love thinking of the physical body here. Instead of being dismembered by our humanity, we can be remembered by our divinity. This is what we are doing tonight. Once we remember our divinity, we can work to develop ourselves through it. I am visual. Visualization. This is something that I'm learning more and more about right now. I am able to see who I am at my highest potential without judging the current version of me. This is such a fun space to be in. One of my favorite guided meditations is by Brooke Snow entitled See the Divine Self. When I choose to see my future self who has embraced her divinity, I have love and compassion for who I am now and gratitude for the steps I am taking to become. And then finally, I am peace. I am willing to accept what is. I am willing to take a look at my shortcomings and failures without judgment, fear, or frustration, and allow others the same courtesy. Now, I'm sure that this list of attributes is not complete. You may have thought of your own attributes, and feel free to write down your ideas. Your divinity is yours. I love this quote by Emily McDowell. Finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket. You are not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, an unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. I just love that thought. So this next month, I invite you to begin your own remembering process. You could list 100 things that you love about you and see what happens inside. You could get to know you through a personality test or write down your spiritual gifts. You could ask people who know you well what they see in you. I've done this with Ashley before. I'm like, she sometimes shows me my gifts and I'm like, thank you for showing me that, because I had a blinder up. So I really appreciate good friends that can show us what our gifts are and that we can turn to. You could turn to your patriarchal blessing or pray and journal to allow God to open your divinity to you. You could write down a whole bunch of I am statements that define you, who you are at your core, at your highest potential. You could identify a goal you want to achieve on your learning path to become, and then attach one of your I am statements to that goal. There are just so many things you can do to awaken your divinity. So you can choose one, you could choose many, but just choose to awaken. I decided that my divinity center is my shield of remembrance. When I am caught in the drama of life, because guess what? When you learn about your divinity, when you try to come to life with your divinity, drama still happens. It still shows up in your life, and we still respond in drama often. It's just part of how we're wired. But I like to stop, feel the emotions that are in drama, and then I pull out my divinity shield and I choose to turn and remember. This is what repentance has become for me, an opportunity to remember God and to remember who I am. I peel back all the labels of the natural self. And I decided that when I peel back all those labels, I am connected. I am abundant. I am present. I am light. I'm a learner. I'm a dancer. I'm a dreamer. I'm a creator. I'm a disciple. I am aligned. I'm a teacher. I'm a believer. From these I am statements, I created my own divinity statement for this year. I am connected to my eternal purpose as an aligned divine daughter of heavenly parents, awakening others to their divinity by teaching monthly classes that reflect the abundant light and learning I have received as a dreamer and a disciple of Christ. I am a creator who dances through life, believing in my divine purpose and mission to prepare this earth to receive its light. If you are interested in creating your own divinity shield, I have included a few I am statements to help get you started. Feel free to screenshot these for future reference, or you can reach out to me and I can text you a picture. So just to end our class, and we are going to have some time at the end just to share a few things. But I wanted to share a special insight that I had that I've received while studying The Living Christ, which is a document testifying of our Savior. One passage refers to a moment at the Kirtland Temple dedication that was recorded in Doctrine and Covenants, section 110, verses 1 through 4. And I want you to listen with your spiritual ears as we read this. The veil was taken from our minds, and the eyes of our understanding were opened. We saw the Lord standing upon the breastwork of the pulpit before us, and under his feet was paved work of pure gold, in color like amber. His eyes were as a flame of fire. The hair of his head was white, like the pure snow. His countenance shone above the brightness of the sun, and his voice was as the sound of the rushing of great waters, even the voice of Jehovah saying, I am the first and the last. I am he who liveth. I am he who was slain. I am your advocate with the Father. Now, when I studied this and began to dive into the incredible symbolism seen in color and description, I felt as if the veil of unbelief was taken from my mind. All of the labels that I have put on my body and on myself from all the natural man mortal experiences that I've gone through from childhood and beyond, I just felt as if that whole facade was taken away, and that veil was covering up who I am. Jesus knows his divinity. When he calls us to follow him, he wants us to know ours. If you read his I am statements, he knows exactly who he is. And he wants us to remember who we are. It is our opportunity to let the labels of the past fall as we discover our true identity, our true divinity. Now, for just a moment, I'm going to stop screen share, and I would just like to hear from some of you. If you feel inspired to share, how have you felt tonight? Is there a part of your humanity? I like to say there's our humanity and then there's our divinity. Is there a part of your humanity that has come to the surface that you are ready to let go of, to invite part of your divinity to shine through? Do any of you have anything you would like to share, or something that you felt during tonight's class? I know Cindy has things to share, but she can't speak tonight. She has laryngitis. So if you want to type it in the chat, you can totally do that too. Sometimes I like to just ponder. Are there any I am statements from your divinity that are just speaking at you right now? I love Cindy's, I am encouraged. I am light. Anybody else have anything they want to share tonight?
Krista, I'm thinking about something here that just really strikes me about identities, and how sometimes our worldly identity is very separate from our spiritual identity. And somehow I have just felt a real desire tonight to take a serious look at that and understand that those identities need to merge into one, so that integrated in who I really am, and I can work from that space always, instead of being splintered in 100 directions.
Oh, I love that thought. So just to go along with that, I've felt lately that if we can get our identities, our mortal identities, to connect with our spiritual identities into a union that is so beautiful and that works together so well, that when we have the opportunity to be resurrected, we will want to be in our physical bodies again. Like we will be so excited for that physical experience to join with that spiritual experience. So I've actually stopped labeling the drama of my life as bad. because I actually can see how when I show up as the victim or as the hero or as the villain in my life, it awakens something inside me that this is not who I want to be. And then it helps me figure out that I want to be a creator instead. And so I've started to see it as being whole. Our humanity and our divinity have to meet together to be whole, right? When it says Jesus once of humble birth, I love this thought that, pride is not the opposite of humility. Pride is when we forget who God is and we forget who we are. And I love that thought that when Jesus was of humble birth, that means from his birth, he knew who he was. He had a perfect understand. Well, I think he grew into it, but he grew into a perfect understanding of who he was, still knowing who the Father is. And I love that idea that to be humble is to know exactly who we are and exactly who God is at the same time, and to work together. So I love that comment. Thank you so much. Anybody else have anything to share?
I've been thinking a lot about Zion, and Zion is of one mind and one heart, but there's nothing more cardinal than the mind and the human heart. Heart, it's emotions and all the things that we experience and we take in, and I think, I personally believe, until we are called to a physical place to build Zion, we're to build it in ourselves, to have one mind and one heart. Well, that only happens, like, I picture like an inner circle of our divinity, and then an outer circle of our heart, and then another one of our minds. And all of them can be the same size, but the more we let the divinity in, the mind and the heart become smaller, because we're letting our divinity control our hearts and our mind when we can come from that place from within, versus letting our minds and our hearts control us, which is more of the human side. And the more we do that, the more we become like the divine can take over and lead and guide all of us. And I actually was reading a book this week, and I don't remember the name of it. It was actually had to do with the temple, but it gave one of the definitions of the glory of God, and they defined glory as being fully present. And like present in mind, body, and spirit. And I think the more we come from our divine self, our glory becomes bigger and brighter, until one day that glory is as big and as great as God's. And that's his glory, is that he leads everything from his own divinity.
Oh, I love that, Ashley. I was reading once about being in the presence of God, and I've always thought of being in the presence of God as being like in a location close to him, right? Location and presence. But when I started to look at it as being in the presence, like physical, not just physical presence, but mental presence and emotional presence, being in that presence of God, being here now in one space, present with it, just changed my whole perspective that he can sanctify. This whole process of learning our divinity is sanctifying our hearts, right? It's sanctifying our minds, that we can feel, that we can see, that we can say and do and become as he is. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else? Are you beginning to see how much, like, I don't know, when I started learning some of these things, I started to see everything in drama. Like, it was like, there's so much drama around us. I'm like, but at the same time, I was like, oh, is that, maybe this is just part of our progress, part of our progression. Cindy said, I feel my heart and spirit are reacting to truth being taught tonight. My heart is lighter. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. I just love you. Mwah. Sorry, your voice is not there. Your divine voice is totally coming through. I can see it in your eyes. Cindy is an amazing singer. She just has this voice from heaven. She's like an angel. So when she can't sing, it's like her divinity has to come through. It's beautiful. All right. Well, I thank you, all of you, for coming to class tonight. Let me restart my slideshow. I do have a couple other slides to go over tonight. So I invite all of you. So there's a form. Can you see the whole form? I'm not actually sure if you can see it. Oh, you probably can't. Let me actually stop share and fix that real quick. There is a form that I'm going to have all of you, actually, maybe I'll just send it to you. That'll be easier. I'm going to have all of you fill out just to kind of share your thoughts and some things that you would like to do. So I'll put that slide back up. And then I will message each of you and let you know or give you that form so you can fill it out. It's really short, but it will help me know where you are and what you want to create. So you can write it down here. It's just HTTPS. That's what you can't see on the screen. But if you want to write the rest of that down, or I can send it to you afterward. But this form will only take about a minute to fill out. It will let me know if you're interested in the workshop on Saturday. So we are going to have our next Divinity Series workshop on Saturday from noon to 2. So you can let me know if you can come to that. If not, that's totally okay. It's just going to be a fun time to get together, to be in person. We're going to have a light lunch. We're going to do a fun See the Divine Self meditation, that Brooke Snow meditation that I talked about. I think it's about 12, 15 minutes. And then we're just going to do some group divinity coaching. I'm going to walk you through the model that has that divinity center. We're going to go through some scenarios. And if you're interested in coming, I'm actually going to send you an email invite that has a form that I will have you fill out and bring with you that day. That will really help with the group divinity coaching. So you won't have to come with any particular thoughts on your mind, but bringing this little form will help you in this divinity coaching class. So it'll be really fun. You can also share with me your top takeaway from tonight's class and what you're going to do to awaken your divinity. I would love to hear all of your ideas, because I know not all of the ideas they come from my mouth. A lot of them come from the spirit. So if you feel inspired to do something differently, to stop doing something or to start doing something, I would love for you to share that with me. Also, if anything resonated with you tonight, as I spoke of my journey through a wide variety of resources, I'd be happy to send you more information. One of my absolute favorite resources right now that I really wanted to encourage all of you to try is Brooke Snow's new Co-Create app, which you can download from your favorite app store. It's only $11.11 a month, or you can pay for the whole year for $111. So it's with this app, you have access to all of her guided meditations, her courses like Love More, Way Less, the 40-day meditation challenge, or the Law of Creation. These classes have changed my perspective and changed my life. There's also some fantastic yoga classes on there, and just lots more to connect your physical body and your spiritual body. So I encourage, if this is something that resonates with you, that you would like to look more into, I really encourage you to look at the Co-Create app by Brooke Snow. Also, I'm going to be taking a small group through some of her fundamentals after we're finished with this Divinity series. So this would be a good opportunity to kind of get the app, look through it, and start to prepare for the next course of fundamentals that I would like to teach. So I love Brooke's content. I'm super excited to begin coaching my clients and my friends through their own journeys with her tools. I recently received my creation coach certification through her program. And so I'm really excited to start using her tools to start sharing light and helping people to create what they want in their lives. So I do encourage you to look into that. I also do like free health evaluations if you're interested in any physical health things through the Habits of Health. So our next class will be held on the last Tuesday of February. So that's February 28th at 7 p.m. And this one's going to be entitled Accept from Your Divinity. Once we've awakened to our divinity, we need to learn to accept it, right? Accept the wisdom and the learning from our divinity. So I'm going to kind of walk you through, and we're going to dive deeper into some of the tools that I've learned to help us access and accept from our divine centers. So I encourage all of you to come back. It would be really fun to see all of your faces again. And then be sure to fill out that Awaken to Your Divinity form that I'll send out to each of you as soon as possible. And for those of you who are coming Saturday, I'm excited to see you there. Any questions before I let you guys? I'm going to write down everybody who's here. So maybe I'll just screenshot it so that I can send you all that form. And I am going to send the recording of this to the people who weren't able to come tonight. And that'll be great. So any questions before we all let you go? I didn't want to go over an hour, so this is perfect. Clear as mud, clear as divine mud. I believe in divine mud. I really do. Amber, it's so fun to see your face. She's my Washington friend. She's like, are you going to do this so I can watch it? And I'm like, yes, I am. We're doing this on Zoom. But if you want to fly down for our workshop on Saturday, you can stay with me. That's fun. All right. Well, thank you, beautiful women, for coming to my class tonight. Emily, it's so fun to see you too. She's my new friend that I met just waiting for my kids at school. So it's been so fun to get to know her and get to know all of you. Cami, I don't see you enough anymore. It's fun to see you. But thank you all for coming tonight. And I hope to see you soon. So awaken to your divinity and start to find out who you are.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.